What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to All Sports Talk with Peter Burtnett. I want to start today's episode, though, by just wishing, continued prayers for Damar Hamlin. I've, been praying since Monday night and continued to pray for him and for his family, for his teammates and coaches and the rest of the Bills organization, and also for T. Higgins and for the rest of the Bengals organization as well, and really everybody who was involved on the sidelines, in the crowd, on TV and everything that experienced that really kind of scary moment on Monday Night Football. If you don't know what happened, I just want to start by saying I'm not here to offer any opinions on the matter. I'm not here to make any sort of arguments for or against the grind and the violence that can be a part of football. I just kind of want to present the facts as they happened, and then I'll have another topic that is a much lighter note in the second half of this episode. But if you don't know what happened, it was in the first quarter. I think the Bengals were ahead 7-3. Again, that really doesn't matter. Damar Hamlin, a safety for the Buffalo Bills, was making a tackle on T. Higgins, and he took a blow to the chest. I think at first most people probably thought that it was an injury to the head or neck area because he stood up and then just collapsed and fell backwards. And what doctors have said happened is basically his heart was kind of short-circuited. The official, more scientific term is commotio cordis, and it is another word for it is it's also a cardiac arrest is what this condition caused. And from another video that I saw, this one was on TikTok, so I'm not 100% sure if it's completely accurate, but the blow to the chest happened at the exact wrong moment, really, in this case, for Damar Hamlin in the electric cycle of his heartbeat, and it basically it did cause his heart rate to completely stop. And so paramedics rushed onto the field. They performed both CPR and used a defibrillator to shock his heart back into action. And from seeing how the Bills and Bengals and everybody was reacting, it was obviously a very scary situation to witness. And so the first point I do want to make, this is the only sort of, I don't even want to call it an opinion, it's just kind of an observation that I've made for this, is that as somebody who is a high school sports reporter, now editor, but somebody who covers high school sports, this underlines the importance of having trained medical personnel and the necessary equipment at every high school, lower level athletic event as possible, and having people who are there and ready to assist. I know from most, if not all, football games that I covered, there was an ambulance kind of just on the behind the track a little bit in the right off the field of play, that if something did happen, they would be there. And there was a moment where I think at the end of the game, actually it was either a player or a coach did collapse. I know they ended up being okay. I'm not going to share the exact circumstances around that, but there was a moment where after a game this year, and one that I was covering, there was a situation where medical personnel, if they weren't there, again, I don't know the full details of the situation. I didn't really go after that information. I did ask one of the coaches, and they said that the person was okay. And so after that, I just kind of left it at that. But it underlines the importance of having medical personnel ready and available and trained to assist in a moment's notice. Thankfully, also, the latest updates with Damar, he was, his heart was shocked back into beating. He wasn't breathing on his own at first, transported to local Cincinnati hospital, where he is still at, but thankfully, it does appear like things are moving in the right direction. Some of the latest news is that he's only using they're only using 50% of oxygen, which basically means he's half breathing on his own and half breathing with, the assistance of an oxygen, of oxygen. So things are moving in the right direction for Damar. It's obviously he's not out of the woods yet, so continue to pray, or if you don't believe in that, just to offer your thoughts and your sympathy for Damar and his family. There's a good thread kind of with the latest from this morning from Coley Harvey. He was a reporter that was he's an ESPN national reporter. He was on some of SportsCenter coverage the night Monday night after the incident. So the latest tweet per Jordan Rooney, who is Damar's family friend and also his representative. He said, per Jordan and Damar's family, doctors overnight got promising readings that they had been hoping to see by this morning. Jordan couldn't go into specifics, but progress appears to be made. And then another tweet in this thread, Damar is still sedated and in critical condition in the ICU. He also mentions there was some miscommunication about how many times Hamlin was resuscitated. There was only one instance at Paycor Stadium itself. And then he just goes on to talk about some of the coverage that he will be providing. So again, it's moving in the positive direction. All we can do now is hope and pray that things do end up with Damar, coming back to full health, and whether or not he ever plays football again, who knows? But it does bring up a couple of other examples. One recently that really stood out to me, because actually during this incident on Monday Night Football, I was covering a high school basketball game, so I didn't see it really unfolding, but I saw all the coverage afterwards. But one that I did see was Christian Eriksen for Denmark's national football team, international football, during the Euros last summer. It was a very similar situation. Christian Eriksen, I honestly can't remember if he took any sort of blow. I think he was kind of standing on his own, collapsed. He had suffered a cardiac arrest as well. And it was kind of similar scenes. The Denmark and their opponents, you could see the reaction on their faces, just how serious the situation was. Thankfully, he was nursed back to good health, and he actually is back on the field, on the pitch, playing soccer again. Another guy, Keontae Johnson, was a Florida basketball guard. He had the same sort of situation, but then of course on a more extreme side, there was the incident of, I think, Loyola Marymount's Hank Gathers, who actually did die after collapsing on the court. And so again, I'm not here to argue for or against just these scary, serious heart conditions that happen on the field of play. I'm just simply here to present some of the facts and some of the things that kind of came to my mind. But again, all we can do now is hope for Damar Hamlin to get better. And once he is, that's when things can really shift into what happens next. Obviously, as sports fans, we do think about, what's going to happen with this game. As of right now, the NFL has said that there are no immediate plans to resume this game or to change any of the scheduling in Week 18. So as of now, that game, I guess, is null. But again, that at this moment doesn't matter until Damar Hamlin is back, conscious and no longer in critical condition. But with that news presented, I wanted to kind of add a little bit more of a lighthearted kind of discussion to the end of this episode, and for the first time talk about the NBA on All Sports Talk, because there have been a couple of players. Obviously, there's always so much to talk about during the NBA season. We're right in the middle of it right now, but two players, both still under the age of 30. One's the same age as me, is Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Both of those guys have been absolutely instrumental to their team's success. Both are top 4 seeds. The Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis's team, are I think second, or I think they might have dropped to third now in the East, behind the Nets, who are really on a strong 12-game winning streak right now, and then Luka for the Dallas Mavericks, who are fourth in the West. So both teams are playing really well, but those two players specifically, and we've seen it the last couple of years, have really been leading those teams to that success. At this moment, as of recording this episode on January 4th, Luka Doncic is leading the NBA with 34.3 points per game. He's averaging also 50% from the field, 8.8 rebounds per game, and 8.9 assists, which I believe is fourth in assists per game in the NBA. In his last game, in a game on December 27th against the New York Knicks, he achieved a stat line that hasn't been achieved in the NBA before. Kind of one of those, iffy stats where it's just like they're kind of pulling, like random numbers. Like, of course, they haven't lined up before, but it was a really impressive stat line. He poured in 60 points, grabbed 21 rebounds, and dished out 10 assists, or 12 assists, 10 assists, sorry. Dished out 10 assists against the Knicks, and then he also had a triple-double, I think, in the next game or the next two games. And so there's one player. Again, Luka's only 23. He's been in the NBA now for several seasons now, but he's such a talented player. He's a pure scorer, but he can also dish the ball and he can rebound the ball. He's pretty much a triple-double machine, not quite to the level of what Russell Westbrook was in his prime, with averaging a triple-double for several seasons running. But Luka has really stepped up to an even higher level than he had been achieving this year, than he had been in previous years. And then obviously on the other side of that, Giannis, and this is what kind of why I wanted to talk about this today, is because Giannis scored a career-high 55 points last night, also grabbed 10 boards, dished out 7 assists, and in the last two games, he's had 22 and 20 rebounds. So both of those guys are absolutely just getting it done for both of their teams on the basketball court. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to dive into just not only presenting what they've been doing recently, but talk a little bit and maybe debate a little bit about who's maybe the better player. Normally I stay away from really like saying this player is for sure the better player. I like to kind of just talk about what each player's strengths are. And so I wanted to dive into that for this episode. The first comparison, and it's really the one for me that I think probably matters the most when comparing players, and that's championships. Giannis has obviously been in the NBA longer, but I think they kind of are two, they're two very unique players, but I think it is easy to kind of compare them. They're both young, they're leading their teams, and they, again, kind of can be triple-double machines at times. But again, the advantage of championships belongs to the Greek Freak, 1-0 after the Bucks beat the Suns in the finals a couple of years ago now. So there's an advantage for Giannis. I think Luka, he's been in the NBA. 2018-19 was his rookie year. So he has some time to catch up to Giannis in terms of how long he's been in the NBA. But he has championship experience in Europe. And I think it's just a matter of time before that translates into what he's able to get done in the NBA as well. Comparing them, it's tough to do this because they have, again, kind of similar skill sets, but again, unique skill sets on offense. I think the easier call to make, the easier statement to be more sure of is that Giannis is the stronger defender. He's won Defensive Player of the Year. That's something that Luka has not done yet. But so defense, I think the edge definitely goes to Giannis. He is just such an imposing presence. He's got he's obviously got the height. He's got the wingspan. He's got the agility and just the ability to cover really anybody on the court. Out on the wings, top of the key, or down in the post. He is a dominant defender, and that's one thing that's led the Bucks team to the success that they've had is his defensive presence. On offense, he, kind of the same idea. He's very imposing. He's a physical player, and he can also shoot the ball. Maybe not quite as well as Luka can, but still at a very high clip. And obviously, he can get down low into the post, back down, drive into the lane. Giannis has obviously a ton of strengths. He's a very versatile player. But Luka, on the other hand, I think is probably the better pure scorer. He gets it done in in a variety of ways. For him, it's he's all over the court. He can shoot from outside. Again, I said he's 50% from the field. I think 36% from three, which is a pretty high clip. And he is maybe the better just pure scorer. I mean, that shows in the numbers and just kind of in the play. But he can also, his vision has led some to compare, Magic Johnson type vision on the court, his ability to distribute the ball to his teammates. So both of those players, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic, are really still they're the president of the NBA too, but they're still really the NBA's future for a good while now, especially Luka. I think Giannis is 28 or 29. Luka's, again, only 23. So both of those guys have had already good careers before this year. If you know the NBA at all, you know both of those names. But I think especially recently, the Bucks have taken a little bit of a downturn in terms of winning games, but Giannis is still getting it done on the court. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to dive into what both of those two have been doing recently. Because again, this is all sports talk. It's all sports. It's all the time. This is episode number 2, so I'm feeling things out still. But I wanted to kind of present, it's something that's going on in the NBA right now with both of those two. And, another thing that's a little bit more to look at in the future, not really far into the distance, is probably about a month away, but very soon LeBron James will be breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time career scoring record. And so that's something to keep an eye on. I'm also, being from Cleveland, Ohio, I'm a Cavaliers fan. And so it's really, really cool to see my Cavs playing like they are. Donovan Mitchell, there's another name. I hadn't really planned to talk about this, but unfortunately for him, and obviously again there are things so much that matter so much more than this. But he put up 71 points in a double-digit comeback win by the Cavaliers against the Bulls on Monday night as well. So obviously that was for good reason overshadowed by what happened with Damar Hamlin. But I did now that we've had time to kind of digest what happened and know that things are kind of moving in a more positive direction, I wanted to also look back at that as well, because Donovan Mitchell has been, as expected, but maybe even exceeding those expectations a little bit, has been such a massive addition to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and has the Cavs just 2 games back of the Celtics, who are first in the East right now. And, speaking of the Eastern Conference, you got Celtics, Nets, Bucks, Cavs. Those are the top 4 teams, really competitive. And then even going further behind them, there are plenty of solid teams. But it should be a really exciting race down the second half of this season coming up here in the East. And the West is pretty competitive too. You've got, I think, the Grizzlies and the Nuggets, and as I mentioned, the Mavericks. So it's going to be a really fun time in the NBA this year, and who knows, maybe it will be Luka versus Giannis for the finals. I think that would be a phenomenal matchup to see. But you've got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving figuring things out with the Nets, winning 12 in a row. The Celtics are holding that number 1 seed barely right now. It's kind of been passed around. Really mostly between the Celtics and the Bucks. The Cavs might have gotten up to number 1 for like a game or two, but really it's exciting times in the NBA. A lot of really good young teams. Looking out at the West, you've got the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, and then obviously John Morant for the Grizzlies. It's really an exciting time in the NBA. A lot of young players that are really stepping up and providing so much entertainment for us as fans, and seem to be having a good time doing it as well. So with that's all I have for this episode of All Sports Talk. Again, some amazing play recently for Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and of course the bigger story, and on a more serious note, just the situation with Damar Hamlin, continuing to pray for him and for his family and for all involved with that scary situation on Monday night. And also, I wanted to give an opportunity. I know I don't have a big audience yet, but I wanted to shout out Hamlin's toy drive. You can find it, I think, probably in his social channels, and maybe I'll try to link it in the description here. But it's raised, I think, maybe over $4 million now for a toy drive that he has. I believe maybe based in his hometown of Pittsburgh. I'll maybe iron out some of those details, or I'll put something on the screen about it. But I think it's really cool that, even in such a scary and a sad situation, there have been some good things that have come out of it. The sports world has, for the most part, come together and united, and now there's kind of a positive impact with this toy drive. So without further ado, that's it for episode 2 of All Sports Talk. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to see more, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and maybe leave a comment about your thoughts on the whole situation with Hamlin, or the Luka versus Giannis debate, or whatever else you're thinking about how things are going in the NBA right now. Again, though, that's it for this episode of All Sports Talk. This is Peter Burtnett signing out. Peace.